He was the kind of man the world rarely noticed. Born and raised in a town so small the welcome sign doubled as the goodbye sign, his life was built from routines and responsibility. He worked long days repairing fences, hauling wood, fixing what others had broken, and coming home to a quiet house that still echoed with memories of his parents and a younger version of himself that had once dreamed bigger. Money was always tight, and hope came in small doses, like the first warm day after winter or the satisfaction of finishing honest work. He had learned not to expect miracles, only to do what was right in front of him. That night, he had gone into the woods to check on a broken fence line after a storm warning, grumbling under his breath about unpaid labor and bad luck following him like a shadow. The forest had always been familiar, almost friendly, but storms changed things. Trails disappeared, trees groaned, and the darkness felt heavier. When he spotted movement near the creek, he assumed it was a deer or maybe a stray dog. What he found instead was a woman barely conscious, soaked to the bone, her breathing shallow, her body trembling as if the cold was trying to claim her. He didn't hesitate. He lifted her with arms hardened by years of labor, carried her through mud and rain, and brought her to his truck, whispering reassurance even though he had no idea who she was or why she was there. Back at his modest home, he dried her off, wrapped her in blankets, and stayed awake through the night to make sure she lived. He didn't call the police, not because he was hiding anything, but because something in her fear felt different, deeper than being lost. It felt like she was running. When morning came, the storm passed, but tension lingered. She woke slowly, panic flashing across her face before she realized she was safe. Her eyes scanned the room, taking in the worn furniture, the cracked window, the smell of coffee and wood smoke. This was not where she expected to be, and relief mixed with dread. He gave her space, offered food, and asked nothing in return. In his world, helping someone didn't require explanations. Days passed, and she stayed. The woman claimed she needed time to recover, and he didn't press. He noticed things though, how her hands were too soft for the wilderness, how she flinched at distant engine sounds, how she spoke carefully, as if every word was measured. At night, she sometimes woke screaming from nightmares he never asked about. In the daylight, she helped around the house in small ways, learning his routines, watching him work with an intensity that felt like gratitude mixed with something heavier. As they spent time together, his life began to feel different. Not easier, but fuller. The loneliness that had settled into his bones over the years loosened its grip. He found himself smiling more, talking to someone at dinner instead of the silence. For her, the days brought a strange peace. The woods that once terrified her became a shield, the quiet town a hiding place. But fear still followed her, hiding behind every sound, every unfamiliar face. The truth came out not as a confession, but as an accident. A news broadcast playing softly in the background showed her face, clean, confident, standing beside powerful people in a world of glass buildings and private jets. The words, "missing," and "millionaire heiress," cut through the room like a blade. Her past wasn't just complicated. It was dangerous. She had been escaping control, expectations, and a life where love was conditional and freedom was an illusion. Money had bought everything except safety. He felt betrayed, not because she was rich, but because she hadn't trusted him. Doubt crept in. Had she used him? Was danger now sitting quietly in his living room? For the first time since finding her, he considered walking away. His life was already hard enough. Trouble had a way of destroying people like him. But then he saw her break. Not dramatically, not loudly, but in the way someone does when they've been strong for too long. The fear, the exhaustion, the weight of running from people who claimed to love her but only wanted control, it all spilled out. She hadn't been running toward adventure. She had been running to survive. That night, he made a choice that would define him forever. He stayed. Not because of money, not because of destiny, but because kindness had already tied them together. He helped her plan, hide, and heal. When people came looking, he lied for the first time in his life. When threats arrived disguised as concern, he stood firm. The woods that had once been her terror became their refuge, and his small home became a place of rebuilding. In protecting her, he faced his own fears. He confronted the belief that he was small, unimportant, replaceable. Standing between her and the powerful world chasing her showed him that strength didn't come from money or influence. It came from choosing to care when it would be easier not to. The town noticed changes in him. He walked taller. He spoke with confidence. He wasn't just surviving anymore. Eventually, the truth could not stay buried. The people she had escaped found them. Lawyers, investigators, men with polished shoes and cold smiles. They offered deals, money, promises of safety. For a moment, everything he lacked stood in front of him, wrapped in tempting words. A way out of hardship. A reward for doing the right thing. He refused. Not because he didn't need it, but because he finally understood his worth. He didn't sell her freedom. He didn't trade kindness for comfort. He stood beside her as she reclaimed her life on her own terms, exposing corruption, breaking free from manipulation, and choosing a future that belonged to her. When the dust settled, the world didn't magically become perfect. He didn't turn into a millionaire overnight. His house was still small. His town was still quiet. But something fundamental had changed. He was no longer invisible, to himself or to others. Opportunities came, not as handouts, but as recognition of character. Work turned into partnership. Respect replaced pity. She didn't forget him. Even when her life pulled her back toward a bigger world, she carried the lessons of that small town and the man who showed her that safety isn't bought, it's given. Their connection wasn't about fairy tale romance or dramatic endings. It was about two broken paths crossing at exactly the right moment. Near the end of this story, take a second to reflect. If this journey moved you, if it reminded you that kindness still matters in a world obsessed with power and money, please like the video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps these stories reach hearts that need them most.